How y'all doing? It's Judge Lynn. Hope you're having a good day. Got a few things to say. I got a note from somebody, and I want to talk to you about powerlessness, and I'll tell you why. Zora's with me sleeping. I don't know where the other one is. I don't want to call his name. He may show up. But I got it. First of all, I want to say uh, that tape I did of me dancing at the speech the other day was from 2012. It was from one of my favorite speeches of all time. It was at one of my favorite speaking events of all time. I met a friend, Ricky, and we've been friends ever since. And I just loved that speech, and I loved that community. And it reminded me of some things that I want to tell you about. But before I do all of that, I got a message from Michelle. Thank you, Michelle. Michelle says, "Hey, Judge Lynn, I hope all is well. I was wondering if that second Instagram page is really you." That is an excellent question, Michelle, because and the page you're talking about is Real Judge Lynn II. It's on IG. I got my IG page pulled because I used to do those things where I would take other people's videos and do voiceovers and all that kind of stuff. And it used to be really fun for years. But the community changes, the rules change, and I took too long to change with them. And I was trying to get all of the credits and who and ask people, but I could never. You could. It was always hard to get to the original person. So I finally they ended up pulling my page, and so I've got another one. It's Real Judge Lynn II. Also, I want to say I don't have a Facebook page anymore. So if you're getting reached out to from Facebook, it's not me. I got scammed out of it. I worked hard to give that man all 1.3 million of my followers. And my son said, "Oh my goodness, Mom, you've lost so much. You had like 1.3 on Instagram and 1.3 million on Facebook." And I said, and I said, it was a time that would have bothered me, but I think things just have to change sometimes, and you have to roll with them. You have to rock with something new. Like yesterday, I did the oddest thing. I went into the grocery store from the other way around. You know how you usually go into the grocery store at the same place you start? I always start with the vegetables. I started over there with the in the other section and got completely confused. Walked out of there without even had a list. Because we are such creatures of habit. I was so hot at myself, I didn't know what to do. But anyway, so yeah, I don't. The only other thing I know I do is I do have a cameo uh, that I do, and you can do it on the link tree here, and click it and make cameo request, but nothing else. Oh, I'm on TikTok too, Real Judge Lynn. But my Facebook is gone. Real Judge Lynn II, small letters, so stupid. That's me on IG. Now, Michelle wasn't through helping me. No, 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 no. Then she says, "Oh, FYI, the forgetfulness, it's normal. It's part of menopause." Now, this is the danger of being certain based on few facts. And I ain't mad, Michelle, but you never know when somebody's odd as all get out. I, ma'am, am odd as all get out. I had my first hot flash. Now listen, I'm gonna. I took a minute and asked myself, can I have this conversation about menopause? And I'm like, why wouldn't I? Fellas, don't get crazy. It's a natural process. Part of the part of the whole thing about how life begins and ends, and without any of this stuff, none of you nobody would exist. So, but anyhow, uh, it's a part of menopause. Estrogen that our body no longer produces affect our thinking. I watched Oprah and Halle Berry's special on menopause and learned this. Now, and that's very very true. But see, I had my first hot flash at 39. I was fully menopausal at 44, and uh, it was funny because I told my GYN, like when I was 40, I said, I had a hot flash earlier this year when I was 39. And she says, I doubt that. It doesn't happen that early, but you know. So I'm tooling along in life, and everything started to irritate me. And I mean, I was hot all the time. I mean, angry. And then I started getting physically hot. Called my mother just chippy. That Eric can't think no more. He done got stupid, and it's always hot in here, and he won't let me. Da 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 da. She said, "Oh, you're probably going through perimenopause." I said, "I'm 42." She said, "Yeah, that's what happens to us. Told her, us women. She was a living stupid. Anyway, that that's what happens to us. Our side of the family go." And then I called my sister and my cousin, and sure enough, by 44, we are all. I was completely menopausal. Boom. So I did the 10 years of hot flashes and all of those changes between 44 and 54. And now I'm past all of that. So it isn't, you know, and that's the thing. And Michelle, I love you for suggesting that. But that's why I never say this is what's up wrong with you when people ask me questions, because there's always so much I don't know. And if you've watched two shows on that and then you extrapolate that to everybody, you're missing a lot of information. I did not see those shows on menopause, but I've read a great deal about it since I had been in it. So you can't assume, although the kindness of asking the question is wonderful. And you didn't know that I was just an odd character. So I could have very well been suffering from that, but I wasn't, been through that already. And I didn't have any memory problems. It was really strange. It was all about the heat and the anger. I remember one day, I don't know what was going on, but it was in the middle of dinner. My husband just got up and said, "Boys, let's go." And they walked out of the house, and I didn't care. I finished my dinner, left everything, and went upstairs. Oh, I got jaunty. I got jaunty, and then I figured out what it was, and then everything went a little smooth. But that's the thing, though. You have to put your turn signal on. I had to realize what was happening to me, and then I had to tell him. It's like, look, I'm gonna be a little more doodly, because my estrogen is depleted. And y'all know I've always been a quarter low. Never been a girly girl at all. But anyway, there you go. So as we learn some things, right? Um, and that's when I want to talk about the issue of power. Now, I went to another speaking engagement other than the one from the dancing one. You know, and the interesting thing about the one that I danced in, and maybe I'll try to show more of it, was I had written a speech. I showed up to give it, and the night before, I see that hair up there, and I'm not gonna touch it. Look at my self-control. But I I written a speech, and it was called "The Power of Being a Woman." And I remember the night before I was supposed to give it, a female preacher preached on something, and everything I wrote down didn't seem important anymore. She kind of, she clipped me in right close to my heart, and so I started out the speech. If I can find it, I'm always saying I'm gonna put things on the end of this, and I can never figure out how to do it. But maybe I'll just post it separately, where I said, I was gonna say one thing, but I decided the speech I wanted to give wasn't any good, or wasn't as good as this one. So I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna play it from the heart. I only read one thing off that piece of paper, and then I was just rolling. And I asked for grace. I most certainly did. I said, "Look now, we in this together. I can't give the speech I was gonna give because I no longer feel it. So I'm gonna go with the feelings I got and see where we end up when we're done. And I don't know any more than you do. So woohoo, let's get it." But anyway, more recently, I gave a speech about power when I was in Oakland, and I think, and it was about power from the bottom up. We live in a time, and yes, my stomach is growling. I should eat before I do these things, but it's like 6 o'clock in the morning, and this is when my brain is doing its best work. But anyway, and they were saying, in the current climate where the rollback of DEI and all of these things, and people want to feel empowered, and we often look as power as a top-down thing, and I wanted them to believe in the beauty of power from the bottom up. So, and I learned that on the bench. And I had told this story. It's just interesting. I told this story at the speech in 2012 in El Paso, and I told the power speech here, and they kind of just go together. And I didn't, but anyway, it makes sense in my mind. It doesn't have to make sense here, because it most certainly ain't making no sense coming out of my mouth. But anyway, the beauty of power from the bottom up. For instance, when you vote, they got the president, or if it's a midterm election, senators, or, congressmen. As you go down the ballots, people start giving up. People start giving up. They just don't vote. Aldermen or councilmen or blah, 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 blah. And judges in states where they elect judges are down there at the bottom. Not all states elect judges. Some of them just have retentions. But anyway, in Ohio, they elected judges. Here, they appoint and retain. But anyway, by the time you get down there, people get tired. And they don't know much about it, and they don't think it's very important. But here's my view on the bottom of the ballot. The bottom of the ballot are the people that are most likely to touch your life. You do something wrong in Cleveland Heights, you had to see me. And you could have picked who you wanted to see at the bottom of the ballot. But if you didn't make it that far, then the person most likely to touch your life, you didn't pick. Now, of course, one person doesn't elect anyone, even though I only won by 6 votes, which means it's very important how many people made it down to the bottom of the ballot. Do you know what I mean? And I had a different way. The guy that I beat a lot of people because it was a lot of people in the race, which was the only way I could have won. But he would have been very different than me. Not better, not worse, just different. And I started a lot of programs for at-risk youth. Probably something he wouldn't do because he was older. And I was, I'm 33. I had a lot of energy, Where's the next docket? Where's the next? I'm one of these judges. I remember in the beginning, my bailiff, he was so funny. Judge, just be cool. Be cool, because I'm pacing. It's 8:59. I'm pacing. I'm supposed to be on the bench at 9, and because I want to step out at 9. And he says, "You got to give people time to get in, Judge." I used to make him very nervous. His name was Bill, and he never allowed me to have the original of anything. I'd be reading something, and he'd look at me, and he said, "Is that an original?" And I would just hand it to him, because I lose things. And he learned that very early on. So he used to come in the office, and I used to come in the office early. He would come in the office earlier than me. Anything that was put on my desk, he would give me a duplicate, a copy. And he took the original. And every once in a while, I managed to get my hands on an original. He said, "Judge, is that an original?" "Yes, Bill." You got to learn how to surround yourself with people who can fill in the gaps of your goofy. That's how you get things done. But anyway, so at the bottom, the alderman's like, who's going to fix the potholes that are bothering you? Who's going to, all of that stuff will touch you repeatedly. So you got to make sure it's at the bottom of the thing. And I even got, the only reason I got down to the bottom of the ballot and was successful was because I powered from the bottom up when I was running for judge. I had never run for office before. The guy that I beat was in that community, had been a lawyer 12 years longer than I had been alive, or 14, something like that. But he was really old, not really old, but I was really young to be doing what I was doing. I didn't have any of that top down, groups supporting me and all that kind of stuff. All I had were my legs, and they were sturdy and they were strong, and they were sitting right below a hysterical woman who was working at a law firm, had 4 kids, just had 4 teenage sons, and just had a baby, and I just had to have that job. So my power was from the bottom. I couldn't fix what I didn't know or didn't do or my years, but I could walk and knock on more doors. I walked on door to door to door to door to door. And every night, my husband and I weren't speaking by the time the campaign was in. Every night, he would say, "How many houses did you hit? I want you to hit one more. I want you to hit one more." "Oh, if you want more, well, more, too much. It's too much. I got the baby, I got the thing. And one more, one more, one more." I won by 6 votes. So for every one more he gave me, I owe him. I told everybody to. He was my but for brother. But for him. He got all of his friends in on the campaign. I didn't know nobody. I was shy and retiring. That man lit it up. And it was just him and his buddies, guys he went to high school with. We were just in the ground, just from the power from the bottom up. So, don't read the headlines. What's at the top is usually clickbait. I clickbaited you with the new boyfriend thing, but I thought that was funny, though. I had a new boyfriend, Vladimir Nabokov, but anyway. And in the body of it is what they're telling you. But if they bother to put in some footnotes or annotations or something in the back, that's where the power is. The headline is the clickbait, is the opinion, but you have to know where the opinion comes from and how well vetted it was, and what larger books and people there are on the subjects, and that's all in the footnotes. That's all in the bottom, and nobody does footnotes anymore. But anyway, but I'm just saying. Nuance, detail. I got a little bit of information here, a little bit of information there, and in between, it's conjecture. And conjecture can send you all the way the wrong place. Let's get the details, the nuance. And frankly, if you label and leave, as we often do, you're one of these. I was talking to him and said, "Yeah, he thinks like a Democrat." And I mean, what do you mean he thinks like a Democrat? What is that? And nobody ever knows what I think, because I listen more than I talk when I get, not here, but when people have strong opinions, I just listen. And they think because I'm not disagreeing that I'm agreeing, but I'm just listening and learning and letting a lot of it leak out. I listen to everybody. I trust no one. If they say something I consider to be factual, I go look it up. And I don't just look it up in one place. I don't just look it up until I find the answer I want. I keep looking it up. That's how you knew in law school and when I was a lawyer and I was doing briefs. You knew you were doing the research well when the new case, you keep running into the old cases. You know what I mean? You would have to research case law and case law and case law. And it was, back in the day, it was in books. And we'd have real books and we'd have to go in there and you start running into the same cases over and over again in different contexts. That's when you know you've begun to encircle the topic. But we get a little bit of information now and we think we've encircled it. And we have a little piece of information on the back of it. And we think, woo, but no. How did I get on this? I am a tangential thinker. And there's another speech I gave in Dallas. It was one of my favorites. And my favorite speech I gave in Baylor. And I do not have a copy of that. And my feelings so hurt, I don't know what to do. But I had such a good time. My feet, I had to be walked off the stage because my feet cramped up. But I'm a tangential thinker. And the speech in Dallas, there was a woman that I said, "Listen, because I could feel that I was going to roll. Sometimes you come into a speech and sometimes I get up there and just change my speech because I've been in the room, because I like to come early and I read the room. I want to see what kind of people. I saw Ari Spears do this once. He comes out before his set with his little hoodie up. I love Ari Spears. And he looks at the audience. He's going to mess with his, it's prep time. But anyway, I'm in Dallas, right? And I know I feel like I'm on a roll. And I said, who in here has a mind for details? And I was looking around, and a woman in front, she said, she does. I said, is that she says, that's your friend? I said, okay, that's right. Well, you got a job, honey. You are the keeper of the thought. So as I'm going, and right before I go on a tangent, I said, keep that thought. Remind me where it was. And she did it the whole time. It was beautiful. I had more fun than a barrel of monkeys. And then, right in the middle of the speech, a girlfriend of mine from Ohio that I hadn't seen in 30 years showed up. Oh, it was a wonderful day. But anyway, there you go. Power from the bottom up, sleeping dog, and I'm supposed to be going to Pilates today, but I don't think I'm going to go. I think I'm going to call. I signed up for 3 months, and they're going to say, but you paid. And I'm going to say, you know what? That's the stupid tax. I don't enjoy it. And the only thing worse than paying for something you don't enjoy doing is doing the thing that you don't enjoy. I have to pay for my stupidity of signing up before I really realize I didn't like it. And I thought the first time I didn't like it because I was worried about my deodorant situation. The second time I didn't like it no better. At all. And then they got chair Pilates on these things. I'll do that. Start lifting weights. And the doctor got all up in my Kool-Aid about my diet. So I have to do something about that. I'm just here complaining and talking. I've been very volatile lately. I got an eye on it. I never switch moods too much without figuring out what the heck is happening. Y'all have a good day. Thanks for sticking with me. Yes, and I'm going to do the widow thing. I am. I'm going to figure it out. But I'm going to do it. Y'all have a good day.